Good evening to everybody from the UK and Ireland, and of course here in South Africa. Welcome to the brand new Drie Bokke, a ball and blitz pod. I say brand new look. We're looking slightly different. You'll see that lovely little dog down in the corner there, but lots and lots to talk. Lots and lots to tell you about that is brand new on Drie Bokke. We are now part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. You may say, Andy, we have always been part, and that is correct. But we've sort of galvanized ourselves over the new year, and we are all together now. So support everywhere, which is fantastic. And also, I'd love to be sat in the lovely palatial surroundings of Workshop 17. I'd have some air conditioning and not sweating here in 30-degree heat in Pal, but you know how it is. Cyril says I'm not allowed out after 9 o'clock, so I've got to do it from the lovely palatial surroundings of my own home. So Workshop 17 still completely supporting us on this, and when we are allowed to, we will host the show from there. But speaking of brand new, so we decided that we need a South African on this show, not just me. And we need a South African on here full time. And this is a man who has been a guest of ours and has been a co-host, but now he is officially part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group, and especially the Drie Bokke family. Can I please welcome my new co-host, Mr. Gareth MASON?
Hello. How's it, Andy? How you doing?
GMan, how are you? Welcome to the family, mate.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be a part of this. I've always enjoyed the shows and everything that you guys have been doing, and to be a part of it is phenomenal. Honored, really. It's going to be a good ride. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm so excited because it gives us a real fresh impetus. Obviously, you grew up with rugby here. I watched in awe, not so much nowadays, but hey ho. But also, it's just going to give us another dimension to what we do, because some weeks it will be both of us. In fact, it'll be mainly both of us. But there might be the odd week where GMan comes up with something original that he wants to do, and there will be some weeks that maybe I'll do some stuff on our own. But this is the team moving forward, and whatever happens, whether we're on screen or not, this is us bringing you the magic, and it will be. Let's be honest.
Oh yes, exciting time.
Right, so listen, there is so much to get through this week. We've got so much. We've got GMan, we've got Currie Cup, we've got hopefully a new franchise, a resurgence in the province that I believe you reside in. We've got we've got some serious British Lions chat to slap people on the wrist with. So let's start now and get a guest on. So we have a young man who is making waves in the YouTube world. He is a brilliant knowledge of rugby. So I'm going to bring him straight in. It is Tiaan from Skinny Brew Rugby.
Hey guys, great to be on the show.
Tiaan, welcome, man. Good to let's give you 2 minutes of fame here. Tell us what you do and tell us all about your YouTube channel, mate. Sell yourself to the masses.
Well, my day job is to study full-time as a postgraduate. Then I also teach some students at the civil engineering department, but that's the boring part of it. The rest of the time, I love rugby and I'm always in it. I started a YouTube channel by watching yours truly, GMan, and guys like 2 Cents, and I always was commenting on their channels, and I thought, well, listen, maybe I should start doing this thing myself. Challenged my girlfriend and told her, listen, if I don't get 100 views within the first month on at least one of my videos, I'm going to stop. And that has never stopped. So here I still am 3 years later.
Brilliant stuff.
Top man.
I don't know what else. I'm a massive Western Province fan.
Oh, no. We all have our issues. It's all right. Hey, GMan. Sweet. Maybe bring up the final table.
It's going to be a show. It's good. It's an interesting looking table. That
Balls up, but talk us through it, GMan. Who's
look, the Bulls for me, I think, have been impressive in all round. I think Jack White's done a phenomenal job with them. I think they're just going from strength to strength. in every aspect. They're buying nearly every person, so we're going to run out of rugby players. But they're really looking good. Province has also been solid. A few hiccups here and there, but again, impressive. It's going to be a tough semi-final. South Sea Sharks, that's my team. They've been hot and cold. It's been a bit disappointing watching them, but also been great watching them. Some games they're phenomenal. So I'm hoping that they are at least hot this weekend when they take on Province, because it's not going to be a hard one. And then the Lions, I mean, also a team that's really come out of their own in Super Rugby Unlocked. They weren't looking too great, but they've shown a lot of improvement and are really up their game and deserving to be in those positions. And then you obviously got the Cheetahs, who've made headlines recently. Also, a great top fighting team. Unfortunate for them not to be there, but they seem to lose it a bit. And then the Pumas have shocked me. I thought they've been outstanding in their games. Their surprise victories against the Bulls, obviously highlighting it. And then the Griquas, disappointing. I'm used to them doing a lot better. So overall, very interesting Currie Cup log, but the semi-finals are going to be exciting.
Yeah, the team that actually stands out the most to me there is actually the
absolutely.
Lions, because they have, I think, 5 out of 6 so far in the Currie Cup. Out of the top 4 teams, they have the best record in the Currie Cup. That's something to surprise all of us.
No, absolutely. Going into the semi-finals this weekend, I think that Bulls Lions one's intriguing for me, and we will talk about that in a second. But I'm actually looking forward to that WP versus Sharks. But let's start with the Bulls and the Lions. I had a little dress rehearsal a couple of weeks ago, Tiaan. Bulls came out on top. Not the greatest game to ever watch. Are we going to see a bit of a slugfest this weekend in that one? I
think it's going to be very down to the kickers again, just like the previous one. It's going to be down to the kickers. That guy at the back, Swanepoel, that's going to keep the Lions in that game. The Bulls cannot slip up within 60 meters of the goal. So that's the big thing for me. Yeah.
GMan, the Bulls, you've probably watched more than I have, but the Bulls are looking. Are they beatable? I'm not saying they're playing great rugby. I'm just saying that if you sort of compare the two teams and the lineups, it's looking pretty strong.
It is. Look, they've had their moments where they've been up and down, and like you say, I do think they are beatable. I think they're a great team, and Jake White's doing a lot. But we've seen shocks happen. I mean, I know it was a young team, but the Pumas did beat them not too long ago. We've seen up and downs. But before we get further into it, we have our next guest who's joined us in. He was teaching online. A radio colleague of mine, a good mate of mine. We go a long way in the media industry here in Port Elizabeth, a local bloke. So it's good to have some PE blood with us tonight, especially when we get onto the new franchise talk and all that. So I'd like to welcome Rob Taylor, a radio presenter / online teacher / sports fundu. Rob, good to have you here. Welcome.
So you can unmute.
Good evening, gents. Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. As Gareth said, online teaching is what I do, day and night.
In the background.
And radio, obviously, I've done that for the last 7 years, been a sports presenter on radio, which has opened many, many doors for me. And over the last couple of years, I asked Gareth to join me, and we have an awesome show on a Friday evening where we talk anything sport, rugby, which is Gareth's obviously forte, cricket, football, you name it. We chat about it, which is brilliant.
Well, seeing as you're so good at chatting, I'm going to throw you straight in the deep end here. We're talking about the Bulls versus the Lions at the moment. Has there anything and Tiaan mentioned another Tiaan, Swanepoel, who's really stood out this year as a young man. I mean, not only has he got a rather hefty boot on him, but attacking wise has looked very dangerous. Is there any other players, young players coming through, because they're all over 35 when you play for the Bulls, but is there any other younger are there any other younger players from those two franchises that you've thought, wow, they've been good to watch?
Well, I think if you look at your number one for the Bulls, Liesl Bokke, Fantastic player. Very unlucky, I think, not to have actually been more in the Springbok setup. And I think front row could be where this is won or lost against the Lions. Remember, you got Trevor and Yokani on the other side. And then they've got players like Elrich Lowe, Marco van Staden, and obviously the big number 8, Wayne Vermeulen, which, remember, we at Loftus. That's a big call, is the bull ring, as would be, in cricketing terms, would be the other side, would be the Lions. But at Loftus, it's very tough. And the other thing I'd like to say in the other game is that, remember, Western Province have won 34 Currie Cups. No one else has won as many. And at Newlands, even without Stephen Kitsoff, it's going to be a toughie. So I'd go both sides. But both sides, the home sides to win. Sorry, Gareth. I don't think you'd be too happy with that.
No,
but I think I agree with. I was listening to Tiaan. I agree with him by, South Africans, we love the kicking game. But I think in all 4 teams, you've got to look at the back 3, whether they're young or whether they're older. 11, 14, 15 could be crucial in these semi-finals.
Yeah. Do you think that's where it's going to be won and lost, Rob? I mean, we sort of let's bring in the Western Province Sharks discussion. I don't think there's many better back 3s than the Sharks. Tiaan, how big a loss is Kitsoff? Let's just start with that, because for me, he's probably been the player of this Currie Cup.
Yeah, I think most of the Western Province games, as a Western Province fan, came down to Kitsoff scrummaging. Literally, we got a lot of penalties from scrum time and got field position from scrum time. And without him, it's a bit of a risky prediction going with them. I'd say because Ali Vermaak coming in, he's only played 2 games this season. Is he fit enough to be in the starting position? Look, he is a very good scrummager, no doubt there, but he's not Kitsoff. I don't know. Scrum game is the important battle there, though. Definitely important there. Thomas du Toit is in there. I saw he got a baby boy this afternoon, so he's playing for something. And then
child's probably about 7 stone at birth, isn't it?
Yeah. And then Ox. So it's a front row of Springboks for the Sharks now instead of the Western Province.
Finally.
Yeah, let's just bring up the first two teams and just see if we can highlight anybody out of this. And also, I think it's worth pointing out the benches as well. Like I said, it's a very strong bench for the Bulls. But if there is one man that probably shouldn't be leaving the shores at the moment, but is going to, it's the number 9 there, Van Sale. How good has he been, GMan?
I think it's been absolutely brilliant, and it's such an important position, and I think a lot of people either forget or know the scrum up position, and it's going to be a hell of a battle watching him and Nahamba really go for that number 9 spot. And like you say, going overseas is going to be a sad loss if we do, but really being a key individual, and the partnership there with him and Stanky even has also been top notch.
Yeah, and he's going to go play Championship Rugby as it stands with Saracens. But and the Lions, and I think probably look at the back 3 here, maybe Rob. Is that back line good enough to cause enough damage? Because I think the Bulls, we know, are going to play a lot up front. They've got an incredible pack there. If they can get the ball, Rob, to that back division, can they do some serious damage?
I think your key there is going to be your 10. And I think in most South African games, 10 needs to control the game. Elton Yankees, he's got all the experience. He's got a lot of youngsters outside him. And I've got a feeling that we might see the not so well known, if the ball goes wide from any of these teams, the not so well known guys could actually be highlighting themselves in a Currie Cup semi-final and then obviously a final. But he's got decent backs outside him. I mean, Simelane has been excellent. Skorsan as well. For me, 10 is going to be crucial in any of these sides. And when you look at the other game, I don't like Kerwin Bosch at 10. Never have. I think he's better at 15. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, and Mr. Erdendal there at 12 certainly has something to prove to his former employers as well. I'm sure. That was what's the word for it? It was a strange decision, but it seems to be paying off for the Bulls. Let's just say that. Although I believe they're still paying most of his salary, but that's another story. If we move on to the next game here, maybe Tiaan can talk us through this Western Province side and where they are strong enough and where to go. There's a couple of things here that stick out for me before you get in there, Tiaan, and that is obviously Mr. Kitsoff is missing. Ernst van Rijn dropping to the bench for Johan de Toit. A couple of former Marty's boys there, but yeah, talk us through that team and where you see the strength.
The strengths I see is probably at the hooker there at Mbunambi. I'd probably say he's a bit better there. And at the line-out time with number 4 and 5, I would probably have started Andrews for the Sharks. He's been brilliant at line-out time. Van der Mesht, he's a big bloke, but for some reason in the air, he's struggling in some games to get the position there in line-out time. That's, in my opinion. Then the strength, probably bringing your captain back, a World Cup winner. He's there for a big game here. That's a big thing for them to bring back.
Before he joins the opposition, yeah?
Oh, okay.
That's it, before he joins the opposition.
Maybe. Who knows? Tim Swiel, I've actually given a bit of stick to him in the past. I did not know he has a 50-meter penalty kick in him like he had against the Cheetahs. So well done on him. So I'm seeing a little bit different now since that game. Then we have Rikus Pretorius. He's been pretty good so far as well. He's a big guy to target as well, and he's very fast. If he has a little bit of a gap in front of him, he will punish you. So out wide as well for the Western Province, you always know what they can do there with Angelo Davids and Peterson. I mean, they also just as fast as guys like Penke and Nkosi.
I rate Sergio Peterson highly. I think he's brilliant, and I think he's just going to continue to get better and better. I think there's something special in him.
He's finally found some consistency, isn't he, Gio?
Yes.
He'd have one good game, 2 really, really bad games, but he's definitely found some consistency. And on the bench, there's a couple of names that are spitting out for me there. Tristan Lades. What a player in another one. Unbelievable player in Varsity Cup. Let's just hope that he can make that step up, because unfortunately players like Edward van der Merwe seem to have struggled out wide, and Sazi Sandy as well. So let's see that. But GMan, talk us through the opposition, mate. Talk us through the who's going to beat them.
The Sharkies. I think we've really gone with the strong side. I'm happy with the look of it. I think there's a few players that stand out for me, as Tiaan mentioned earlier. Spoon Corsi. The fact that he's back, I think that's massive for the team. Probably one of my favorite players to date right now. Lukanya needs to lead from the front, put pressure on Sio Khaleesi, just show what he's there for. PE boy, Yao Penchle. I am so excited to see what he can do in the semi-finals. Great opportunity for him. There was a bit of a worry. Spoke to him early in the week about a niggle, but he seemed to have overcome that and is now selected in the squad. So that's great. As Rob mentioned earlier, we always debate this one on a Friday, is Curran Bosch and in the position. I tend to agree. I don't find he's adapted as well in the position of fly off. He's a bit hot and cold. And I mean, the talent that kid can bring is indescribable, and what he could still do. So that backline for me is exciting, and I hope Curran has a great game as well as Fossey. But I'm excited for, and we said it earlier, for number 1, 2, and 3. I just think they're going to be machines. Thomas got a little extra motivation now. Ox rated highly. There's some good names in that Shark squad. So I'm really excited to see what they can do. And I know everyone's confident in Province, but don't count these Sharkies out. I mean, we also won a little bit of a title here and there. So it could be a tough one.
On a hard pitch, that 13, 14, 15 scare the living daylights out of me, especially Fassi. I want to see Fassi move on now. I want to move on.
Yes.
Right, guys, predictions. I'm going to put you on the spot. Rob, both games, who wins by how many?
I've got to go with the home teams on both sides. Although looking at that Sharks bench, they've got a couple of game changers on their bench. But for me, definitely the Bulls in a close one, probably by 6. And then I'm going to stick my neck out that the Stormers will win by 10 or more. But that's probably because I prefer the Stormers to the Sharks.
Bloody hell.
That sounds like a heart overhead.
Oh, Western Province. Sorry, we're going Stormers. Western Province. Yeah.
Tiaan.
I'm sure Tiaan will back me there.
My prediction for this one, I also probably go with home sides. It's just what we tend to do when we get to semi-finals. The Bulls, Ivan van Zyl and Mornay Steyn, those two, that's the important pairing there. I know Warner and Jantjies, they've also been pretty good, but Mornay Steyn in a game like this, it's what he's been building his whole career on, is games like this. I can't see how he's not going to do well in this game. I have the Bulls down to win by 5 points. Maybe a conversion here, a penalty there. That's where I get my 5. The Western Province game, though, like I said, the scrummaging, that's something I'm stressed out about. But much of our modern-day rugby is built on line-outs, where I think the Western Province have a bit of an edge there. I do have the Western Province to win by 1 point.
That sounds better.
Not,
Thank you, Tiaan.
Thank you, Tiaan. Confidence in your team, is it? That's not confidence. I wouldn't mind just bringing up one comment from the audience here. Grant Swartz, if Joe can bring that up. No team as Barry Slow in the centres will ever make a line break.
Interesting.
That's brought a few chuckles between. Yeah.
That's typical Grant.
It's a tough weekend. I think definitely from my side, the Bulls, I think no doubt Tiaan hit it on the nail. Van Zyl and Mornay is going to knock it. So I think Bulls, for me, as much as it's, I can't believe I'm saying this. Pains me to say it. I do think Province are going to win, but by less than 5 points. Sharks, I hope, can prove me wrong. I'm all for it, but I just think Province are just a little bit ahead of us at this moment. Like I said, hot and cold. So I'm going Province to win less than 5.
Awesome stuff. But you've got a massive investment that they don't have. But that's, again, another show on its own.
That's still coming. So we'll cross that bridge next time.
All right, let's move on, GMan.
All right. Well, as we were talking earlier, we were talking about new franchises and new opportunities in South Africa, and obviously with this new cup that's been talking about coming up, the Eastern Province team, the EP Elephants, are now upon us. Obviously, formerly Southern Kings. Rob, you and I dealt with them quite a bit on radio. Some of the players got to know them. Obviously, last week we had a great interview with Pieter de Villiers, chatting about the future of the Kings. EP Elephants. I need to get used to that. We're going back in time. And
Spears.
It's good to hear Eastern Province back on the map again, because I think we've lost it a bit, especially after last year's financial situation. It's not been happy times, but I think Pieter de Villiers, with the talk of how he's doing it, we've got a young squad, which I'm sure Joe will put up now. We've got a lot of youngsters developing and growing in, but one point, and before Rob gets involved, that Pieter de Villiers said, which is a very important factor, is that it doesn't take always a full 15-man team to win. Not 15 men are all brilliant. It takes brilliance from 4 or 5 players. He went on to use the example of the All Blacks, like Dan Carter, Richie McCaw. Without them, you feel lost at that time. For me, one of the main guys here, and he's going to be a massive influence for this Kings Elephants team, is Schalk Ferreira. Rob, I mean, we've met him. We had him in studio once, and I think you'll agree on your thoughts of the Province squad.
Yeah, I think Schalk Ferreira is going to be massive. Pieter de Villiers mentioned that. He is one of the older players, obviously. And what Pieter mentioned was, we asked him the question, and we used the word mindset. So the first thing Pieter said was that Gareth and I should be coaches, because we use the word mindset and not mind. So maybe there's another job for us along the line. But
they've got no budget. I can confirm that.
Yeah, well, we come on a small budget anyway. But
We're from the so we lower market.
what he mentioned was that his first couple of weeks with the team was all about that mindset, believing in yourself. Now, if you look at that squad, other than Schalk Ferreira, you don't see many names that you probably recognize. So now we're going back to the old scenario of club rugby players. Now, Andy, in South Africa, obviously, if you're not aware, club rugby is very different to what it is in other parts of the world. Club rugby is basically the amateur part of rugby. And I think we are losing a lot of players because of franchise, because of systems where you get into an academy or you go to the varsity. Now we're bringing club players into it. And I can tell you there are players in that squad that can make big names for themselves. And Gareth, as we know, they'll probably end up with the Bulls and the Sharks and the Stormers somewhere down the line.
That's been probably one of the most frustrating things from an Eastern Province point of view in general in the town is we get these great players and unfortunately they either go overseas, which we've seen happen. We've lost Michael who was our former captain. We've seen so much talent go, and I think that's been the depressing part from a Port Elizabeth Elephants Kings point of view. Is we've lost a lot of talent because guys want to go to the Bulls, the Sharks, Stormers, etc. I mean, Sergio Peterson from Province, former EP guy, Mapimpi, former King. I mean, Lukanya former King. So it's that kind of frustration is to keep them in. And I think having a name like Pieter de Villiers is definitely going to draw attention. I mean, you guys have heard about it. And I mean, Andy, you deal with it also quite strongly. So I'm happy and I see positives, but we need to keep them.
And I don't know if Tiaan knows much, because I certainly don't, about a name that has been banded around is Ini Radivi. If not, it's okay, because I don't either. GMan is a former Shark. I got sent that list and I was like, Schalk Ferreira, cool. And then I did some research on Ini Radivi. Judging by the feedback on him, GMan, it looks as though he's somebody that could have had a very successful Sharks career, and injury, and then the Priya mafioso came in, and he didn't have a look in after that. He seems very excited by the project that's going on at EP. He seems very excited about being given the main man shirt. We don't know too much about him, but is he somebody, I suppose, as you just were, and maybe Rob can shed some light as well, he is somebody who's probably there to try and get a bigger contract because of his age with another province. And that's fine, but like that is what it is. But is he a player that could potentially do something quite special, even in a team that probably won't win too many games?
I think that goes back to that point of what Peter said the other day, is like having these names that can inspire. Maybe on the field you do great things, but it's the impact he has on the younger generation and how he can inspire and motivate them. And I think that whether it's a short stint, a long stint, it could be a good opportunity for him to do that and really shine. You know, a lot of these guys, whether it's old or young, have the best opportunities or game time when they play for a weaker side, because they're now known. They stand out. So it could be a great opportunity for him to really take on this opportunity rather than what he missed, unfortunately, for the Sharks. So anything's possible, and I hope he can, from an inspiration and a player point of view as well.
Yeah, I still find it shocking there's no loan system in this country. There's so many players. I mean, like Tiaan, wouldn't it be great to send someone like Edward van der Merwe or like Jordan Chait? So I'm not saying they're the right people. I'm just saying they're people that need a chance. And actually, for Western Province to be able to potentially send some of the younger guys to play maybe potentially 10 straight games. Okay, they might not, they're not going to win many, maybe. But the experience, they always say you learn more from losing than you do winning. Wouldn't you like to see some of your younger Western Province guys go up to somewhere like EP and start getting blooded into first-class professional rugby?
Yeah, we definitely need a better loan system in this country. The biggest standout is a guy like with Western Province, especially as a guy like Kate Volite, who's everyone's talking about him, but we're not seeing him. And a team like the Pumas, who lost 2 number 10s throughout this season, had to move their number 15 into number 10. Why can't we set up a loan system where a young guy like this can move to another team and get some game time? That's a frustrating part to me. And being from Bloemfontein as well, having a close connection with the Cheetahs as well, it happens here a lot of times as well. So I'm also have a bit of connection like GMan has with the EP Kings as well. Like, there's good players in the teams, but if there's 2 or 3 injuries, then usually something goes wrong in the whole squad. So a loan system to bring in good guys from bigger unions where they just don't get game time, that's the ideal for me in the country. I don't know if anyone has an opinion on why we don't have a good system, on why that is just not happening.
There's talk with this whole deal with the Sharks and the investment story that the Sharks and EP are actually going to work quite strongly together and pass a few players here and there. So I think we're getting there. And I mean, the Bulls have always had a connection too, I think, in the past with EP. So we've had it. But the problem is you get good players in EP and then you send them to the Sharks or to the Bulls. It's a matter of how about we like a loan system. I actually don't know why we don't have it. It's something that SA Rugby need to get involved, because it could be quite great to see. I mean, just imagine having the likes of a Sia Kolisi or a Mornay Steyn or Frans Steyn in a team like the Kings for a once-off occasion. It can inspire and do great things.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I'm hoping that all these players playing in EP, that EP are going to be playing against, it's a shame that the kids can't go to these to the ground to see them. But my final question on this is for Rob. Actually, it's about the rugby culture in Eastern Province and how important it is for Eastern Province, because I keep hearing that the untapped talent in Eastern Province is incredible, absolutely incredible. And the reason it's not being turned out is just because at the top level, either no one's interested or the franchise isn't good enough. And I still love the greatest rugby company in the whole wide world, possibly the most ironic title for a company I've ever had. I literally mention it on every show because I just love it. The irony. But how important is rugby in EP, and how important is it to have a team that the people of EP can relate to?
Andy, you've given me goosebumps with that question, because at the end of the day, one needs to realize that Eastern Province is rugby country. So is Border, which is just down the road. So if we take the Eastern Cape as a whole, we are rugby country. We're not football country. We're cricket country, but through all of the years, including the apartheid years, everybody played rugby, no matter what your background was. And we've seen in the past, we've had very competitive teams in the old days at the old Boet Erasmus. But the one worry for me is, and it's probably not only Eastern Cape, it's also South African rugby, is that schools in our areas have become very much virtually professional. You take probably the best team in the country, which is Grey Bloem. You can argue what you like, but they filter their players straight through to the Bulls, not even to the Free State. I think that's a major problem in South African rugby. But as far as the Eastern Cape goes, it's massively important. If you look at club rugby now, where you get the varsity not playing anymore because they've got obviously Varsity Cup, but the club rugby sides in the Eastern Cape still draw crowds to watch club rugby games. Gareth and I have actually said to Eastern Province, when the Southern Kings were operating, why don't you have a club game or two before your main game? Get bums on seats, because people watch club rugby. No, it's massive in this part of the world. I mean, you won't believe that I've done what we would call, it's an area in Port Elizabeth called the Northern Areas, which is traditionally players of color. Okay. And we've done a whole section on the legends of those areas, which never played. They weren't allowed to play Springbok rugby. Do you know that they have a player that they compare to Danie Gerber. And I just can't see it. I'm saying, how can you compare somebody to what to me was probably the best 13 to ever play the game? Yes, I know we've probably been biased, but I think Danie was way before his time. And the other scenario is, if you look at how many Eastern Province players or Eastern Cape players are in franchise setups, 60 I counted in 2015 were either playing for the Bulls, the Sharks, the Lions, or the Cheetahs. 60 players from the Eastern Cape. So that's what we need to sort out. But it's they're passionate here. I mean, ask Gareth will tell you. There's first thing is rugby. Then they worry about the other sports. And it's surprising, particularly from certain of our cultures. Gareth, you would think they'd be more football, but they're not. They're rugby.
No, they're not. And I mean, you just see it on the field, you see it in the schools, you see it in the stadiums. I mean, you can listen to anthems online, and I know we're being a little biased. There's something different about the PE crowds in the singing and everything. It's electric. And if we could just keep things here and keep things growing and get the systems and the transformation, everything done right, we're good to go, and we'll move forward in a great way.
Yeah, just listening to Rob there is, mate, I could have been having the same conversation with someone from Par East here. There are so many players that I've been so fortunate to meet who have played against the All Blacks and nobody even knows. And it's like these guys are just absolute legends in their community. Like they walk down the street and people are in awe of them. And it's it's quite sad, to be honest. But there are, like you said, there's untapped talent everywhere, and we need to find it. Right, moving forward. There's a lot of British and Irish Lions shirts here tonight. and that's for a reason. You may have seen recently that there has been a poll. Is that the right word? Online. A petition. There we go. A petition online. Now, we have the man who started that petition. He is the MD of MSG Tours, who obviously are a tour operator for the British and Irish Lions, but they are so much more. And I'm so pleased that he's come and joined us tonight. Let me introduce Mr. Mark Gardner.
Good evening, gents.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, it's intriguing. Listen, enjoying that.
That is your turn now. You'll be even more intriguing. Mark, how are you? Where are you? Where are you in the world? And what's happening? Are you locked down?
Yeah, very much in lockdown. I'm in Derbyshire, right in the heart of England. I'm a Welshman living overseas, and if you can see the mess behind me, I'm currently in a half-renovated cottage. So I do apologise for the backdrop. I normally run everything from our offices that are a lot tidier, a lot more graphic, and very rugby-oriented, with shirts hanging up and globes and maps everywhere. So you've got me in the dungeon almost tonight.
Yeah, brilliant. Listen, when I put the subjects on to the guys tonight, and me and GMan sort of went through them and what we wanted to do. The Lions tour has been hacked up a million times in the last couple of weeks, but one of the things that we wanted to do tonight, and this is perfect timing with you being available, was come into the angle of what the Lions tour brings off the pitch as well as on the pitch, and why what you are doing with the petition. I'm going to get on my soapbox now. I like to do this once a show, so I'm going to get on my soapbox, because I've heard podcasts in the last couple of weeks, and they didn't name check you, but I know exactly who they were talking about. Some say it was bad, some say it was good, some say it was just about rugby. You can read into that what you want. Right, but I heard it, and the argument is, what was put to people was that the petition was started by, of course, a tour company. Why? Of course they would. But my thing now, living in South Africa, obviously being an Englishman, but living in South Africa, is I see, and everyone on this screen sees, the benefit of something like the Lions tour from a social aspect. And what a Lions tour, an England tour, or whatever, when New Zealand come, you see what that brings to a country financially, what it brings to companies like you. But the best thing about what you guys do, and this is why I found the comment that day so arrogant and ignorant, and I can say that, so it doesn't matter whether you agree with me or not, that's how I feel, was that's not recognised, but also nobody had done any research into what you guys actually do outside of just organising British and Irish Lions tours. So how frustrated are you at the moment that people are pushing for it to be in the UK? I signed the petition, I promise. I sent it to a lot of people, and a lot of people sent it to me, actually. But how frustrated are you? I mean, tell us about what you're doing with Beast. Tell us everything about MSG and why this tour has to be in South Africa socially, and the boys can chip in from their memories maybe of 2009 and what they've seen.
Cool. Yeah, there's an awful lot of questions in there, and I'll do my best to work through them from what I can remember. But it's a really tough question to explain to someone who's not British or Irish what it's like to be a Lions fan. It's a very peculiar experience to go halfway across the world or all the way across the world, and then buddy up and drink with all the people that you swear and curse at for 2 or 3 times a year when your country plays them. There's a soft gelling that takes place when you're away with these fans. You warm to each other, and by the time it gets to match day, you've spent either a week or the end of a 3-week tour, or maybe longer for those who watch the whole series, in becoming great pals with all of your opposition, and you form one army where you are limited by how many songs that you've got. Really, it's just Lions, Lions, or Lions. So the songbook isn't the hardest, but you do find it is the tour where it's the only time, and I hope none of my friends are listening here, it's the only time where I would probably sing the English national anthem or the English anthem. I've got no problem with any of the other countries, but it's the one where I'll reluctantly sing it as long as no one's got a smartphone. But what it means is that, and South Africa is particularly important for someone who's married. First of all, it's the one where the wife always wants to come along because of the great wine and the amazing country and the fantastic people. So it's the surefire Lions trip without any complications. You're always going to get that particular passport. And for me, yes, I got a vested interest. I own a tour company, and we've spent the best part of probably 3 years. So the cycle is, as soon as the Lions tour finishes, we start planning the next one. So we're with over 3 years into the planning stages here, which has taken a lot of time, a lot of expertise, a lot of cost. But thankfully, a lot of inspection trips to South Africa to jump on the beds and pull the curtains and make sure that everything is set out in the right way. So all that's happened to create this incredible experience for effectively 30,000 people that are coming over. And when the vaccine news first started breaking in December, and I hate to use the term, but we experienced a bit more of a spike in bookings, or we had an awful lot of people booked on already, but that seemed to give people a huge amount of confidence, and that was the thrust that we needed, which conveniently coincided with the South African government relaxing their border rules. So as long as you had a negative PCR test, you were welcome in. That, with the vaccine news, suddenly we're all systems go. And yet 2.5 weeks later, on the 2nd of January, as the new variants were coming through, the announcement comes out by the Lions that they were looking at options, of which the UK and Ireland were apparently viable on the basis that there's money to be made. So it started to get a huge amount of conjecture, and there's plenty of Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, threads set up that capture an awful lot of noise, and it's very hard to try and hear any strong threads on there. People are very passionate. They've got a lot of personal travel plans have been made. People have been buying 4, 5, 6, 7 items of kit to go away, because with the climate in July and August, as you know, in South Africa, you're going to need something warm for when you're in Durban, and something particularly durable in Cape Town for all the various weather patterns there. So there's a lot of expense gone out. And as the month progressed through and the noise increased, it became sort of plain and clear. And it was only last Sunday, 9 days ago, where I read Stephen Jones's article in the Times. He's a Welshman, a really good rugby journalist. He divides a lot of opinion, but he says and he writes what he thinks, and many respect it. He's been doing that for 30, 35 years. He's been on 7 Lions tours, so the guy knows what he's talking about. It's the first time where he or anybody has actually stood up for South Africa as a country and South Africans and the economy, South African people and the South African fans. And it's the same threads that we've been talking to our customers about and internally in the office. And I literally in this room sat up in my chair and thought, I have to do something here. I have to try, and this is individually, not from the business, because I wanted it to be from a fan first and foremost. I've been on every Lions tour since 2001, so I know what makes a good trip. I know what the Lions are about. I've been across all 3 countries. This is the second time I'll have done South Africa. I wanted to create an official voice. So we had a conflab on a Sunday evening, and I called some members of the office in on a late night Zoom call and said, "This is the plan. I want to use an official platform, and Change.org is recognised around the world for having a really good authoritative voice. It requires authentication, so if you want to give your vote, you have to go and complete your email. So there's no way that we can influence it by getting hamsters and dogs and imaginary email addresses to come and vote. It shows a really good pathway and a footprint for getting your vote there. And I wanted to write it to say that as fans, we travel on the Lions for a number of different reasons: the camaraderie, the friendships, the fun, the frolics, the sing-songs. But it's actually to do all the things on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday that show how passionate we are and how grateful we are to be hosted. And using the MSG tool, my business model for South Africa, we have huge plans that are very, very deep and research of going into communities. We're working with 5 different charities on our 1 million rand project. We've taken over vineyards for big dinners and big engagement. We've got coaching sessions where we're physically planning on building an extension to a rugby clubhouse in Norfolk with a volunteer group from our fans. The day after the second Lions test in Cape Town, and on the Monday and Tuesday of that week. There's dozens of things that are already there, and cumulatively for our fans that are going over, and we've got 800 people that are booked to come on, plus another 200 to 250 who have given us a pledge that as long as there's a vaccine and it's safe, we're going to make that final commitment. So that's 1,000 people plus over 100 staff, of which our commitment is to employ at least 50% South Africans to be our tour guides, to work with us. We were looking to design, manufacture, produce all of our kit in South Africa to provide jobs there. So the whole sustainability program was based around jobs, income, money, and keeping that tourist dollar sort of swishing around the country. Taking the concept from South Africa to Europe breaks all that, and it affects that country exponentially. That money isn't spent, and as Stephen Jones reported, that's 3.1 billion rand. That's a lot of cash. There's a lot of money that isn't going to be spent in South Africa. So that gave the impetus for the petition. We set it out at noon last week, and at the last time of viewing before I left work this evening, I think we were about 5,250. So it's gone.
I got an email to tell me we'd gone over the 5,000 mark.
Excellent.
Brilliant. Gee, and just tell us quickly about your stuff with the Beast is heavily involved with this as well. Obviously a huge impact in 2009. Not a good one from our side of things, Mark, but we'll respect it. Phil Vickery's not coming on, is he? It's all right, we're all good.
No,
just tell us how involved he is and what you're doing together.
Well, the Beast, so a good friend of mine is Tanzrai Shavanga, who has got one of he's got the world record for the most tries scored in the game. I believe it was 6 that he got against maybe it was against Uruguay.
Uruguay,
if memory serves. So we've been connected for a while. He used to play here in Wales for my hometown club, Newport Gwent Dragons, and a connection was made with, kept in touch. And he's become a close friend, and we always meet up when I'm in South Africa. And he connected me to Beast when I was explaining on a piece of paper in a hotel in Cape Town last year, sketching out the plans for 1 million rand. And he said, you should talk to the Beast because he's looking at starting the foundation, which is, for a rugby fan first and foremost. If someone said you should talk to the Beast,
yeah, of course, mate. Yeah, no dramas.
I can't can't give an example. It's like a crazy car fiend being said, "Well, do you want to take this Ferrari for a ride?" Yeah, of course, I'd love to speak to the beast. With our job, we do mix in with a huge amount of rugby players, past and present, from all over the world, and they've all got the same thing in common. They're all great people. You have to be a great people because that network looks after each other. Seldom do you get many players with sort of the arrogance to think they're too good for any occasion. They always try to pay it forward, which is the saying we use a lot, and help each other out. And you can't do enough for each other. And getting to know the beast and learning about his aspirations and his foundation, it was really inspiring. And it was the final piece of the jigsaw that we needed, a foundation that was going to be giving that sporting chance to young good individuals showing promise, but had great aspirations and great expectations, but no pathway to doing so. And sure as hell, if you've got the beast that's fronting the campaign, he's gonna make it work. So we immediately got him on board. He's joined our Lekker Lounge podcast on the first edition, which was very, very, very exciting. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be supporting it. The quandary that we're in now as a business, and the 1 million rand program, we are 37% funded by a lot of donations from our supporters. Our business has made a pledge, bits and pieces that have come in from different angles. Every time we run a show, we have sort of like a live donation. So suddenly we're only 37% to 1 million rand, and the bulk of the money would be earned at all the events that we're hosting in South Africa. Now that's taken away. So it's put us in a really awkward position that we've made these promises to charities. So what happens? What happens there? Well, we're the kind of people that want to see these promises out. So that I don't care if this test is played on the moon. We're going to do everything we can to keep our pledge, because there's no reason that any South African charities in particular should suffer from this decision making.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw this out to the South African the contingent here, and anyone can jump in, guys. 2009 is probably the one you remember. I remember 97 very, very well, but Tiaan probably doesn't. But the 2009, listen, like, we see the documentary. We always see the documentary afterwards, and we watch it about 20 times. Always these boys go into the community. Always these boys go to schools. Always they do a training session somewhere. How important is it for the younger generation to see the British and Irish Lions, but not only just to see it, but to be able to touch it and feel it, for our communities to promote rugby in South Africa?
If I can take that one, the first thing I'd like to tell you guys is that how many times have the Lions actually played at home? 2005 against Argentina and the rest of the world in 1986. British Lions is a tour. That's it.
They didn't.
Bottom line.
They didn't even sell out the Millennium Stadium for that game. No. They didn't even sell out the Millennium Stadium for that game against Argentina.
Yeah, exactly. So what is it? It's a tour. And as you were saying, I've actually been involved to my peril with the Barmy Army. And my word, if you can keep up with that lot, but you're making friends for life. Okay? So all of that. Yeah, all of that. The fact that money is coming into this country, the fact that you're helping charities. I've got a mate who works with the Barmy Army and travels with them. He tells me what gets spent. It's ridiculous amounts on having fun in South Africa and meeting people. So we need it from that point of view. The other point of view is that I think the only Lions side that should never have been allowed in South Africa to play rugby was 1974, because they hammered us and we came off second best badly. And I think the Welshmen listening in would be saying, if we had World Cup then, we would have had a couple of World Cup trophies with the Phil Bennetts and the JPR Williams and all that. But for South Africa, this is massive. And for any country that the Lions tour to. And I'll say it again. Bottom line, it's a tour. It needs to stay that way.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, it's like you said, Andy, with regards to the youngsters and getting involved. I mean, I remember it quite clearly in 2009 because my brother-in-law just came back from Scotland. Okay, he wasn't my brother-in-law then. And he was so excited for this because it's like this is one of the greatest things. You'll be really keen to watch it and all that stuff. And I'll never forget, it was the first game, the Southern Kings or Spears, Rob. I think Kings were playing in Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. First rugby game ever. It was my first experience to really get to know that type of audience. And even though it was a small type of crowd, it was still powerful. I mean, the main supporters were the British and Irish Lions. And it was phenomenal to experience the camaraderie of how the guys got along and were entertained. And also how good they were to us. You know, if you wanted to have a chat with them or take a photo, no problem. And that's always for me has been a standout, is how well that got along. It taught me something. I know it will teach more youngsters. And I mean, ever since that day, I've been dying to buy a jersey and finally got one the other day. So it really sticks with you forever and ever. And it's an important thing for this country, for tourism, for everything. And I hope it all goes ahead with the crowd.
Tiaan, you've probably heard more stories than sort of watching. I remember a time maybe, but all jokes aside, like for you, what do you get? Who speaks to you about the Lions, like your parents and stuff like that? And what have you seen of the Lions in the last sort of 4, 8, 12 years that excites you so much, and why it would just be heart-wrenching if they didn't come over? And just to clarify, I saw some comments on the side, and guys, you are 100% correct. Mark and all of us, especially, are not pushing for this to happen in like 5 months. We're pushing for it to happen in 2022 when it's safe. And the point is that it shouldn't be in the UK. That's what we're saying. But for you, Tia, like, what would the Lions mean to come over and be able to watch and go to the Cape Town Stadium?
Well, look, the first time it happened, I was 12 years old, so half my life ago. And this would be the first time I could actually experience it. So as a 24-year-old to experience it for the first time, probably just after the Lions tour, I actually realized what rugby actually is. I just played it up till that point. From after 12 years old, I kind of became a fanatic. So it's kind of something I've been waiting for quite a while. I've seen a lot of World Cups up till now. I have not seen a Lions tour, and I got tickets to the last test. So besides everything else, I got tickets to the last test to go watch it with my dad, who got me into rugby in the first place. So I have to go watch it.
Yeah, no, I managed to get Stormers tickets, and a very, very good friend of mine has kindly got me a ticket to the last test as well. But for me personally, it's a lifelong dream. Like, and I used it as a bargaining chip with my wife to move here. So if it doesn't go ahead, after my chip's gone, I'm going to get rained on every other day otherwise. But Joe, would you mind just sharing what you were talking about there, guys? Well, Mark can talk us through it, but change.org, look at how we got there, 5,206. Guys, please read it before you just sign it and send it, because I think, sorry, I'm trying not to speak for Mark, but you heard what Mark said just a minute ago. You know, it's not just about what's on the field. It's not just about money. Do you know what I mean? It's not just the fact it's Mark's business is sort of a part of it. It's not all of it. You know, we're all rugby fans, but also there's so many people involved in the Lions tour that are going to get employed. There's so much charity work, because I personally was involved with the visually impaired team that was going to come over here to South Africa, and I was going to try and build a South African visually impaired team. That can't happen. It's things like that, amazing things. It's not just about those players that get picked. So please go to change. What's the full URL there, Mark?
It's a pretty long one. I know on the bottom of the screen there's the abbreviated version, which is helpful. because the page is getting pretty well indexed now, you can go on to change.org and simply search for Lions Tour South Africa, and it'll find it very, very quickly. Or if you can scribble that down and get there. I've been asked a fair amount this week by various people, how many votes are you looking for? What do you intend to do with it?
Yeah.
Well, we could get 1 million. I'm not sure whether that's going to help us on the day. All I'm asking here is that we get a groundswell opinion, and it's enough. We believe it's got enough already. If we can get to 5,500, at that point, I'm going to write an open letter to both of the chairman from the Lions and South African Rugby Union to say this is a very, very strong opinion. Here are the names. With data protection, here are the names of the people that have signed this petition, and we'll do an update on that on the 27th, because we're hearing on a lot of channels on the 28th is when they hit in their final meeting with all the board members. But it's a couple of things I want to add to it. That I fully understand that Ben Calverley and Juru and all the people involved in this decision-making process, it's not easy. They haven't got. There's no hidden agenda. They've always wanted this to happen. They're dealing with information that's moving very quickly. COVID strains that are changing. We're still learning more about the science. We're learning more about the impact of vaccines. It's really hard for them. Okay, I haven't got any personal vendetta against any of these people whatsoever. But where I've got to, and I actually can't get past this point. I've tried to get past this point, but where I'm stuck at is, if the only reason that we can't lift and shift this from 2021 to 22, if the singular reason are the head coaches who are upset that they won't get their premium players to go on their tours, I think that's a sad day for rugby.
Yeah,
if that happens. I would have thought that a lot of these senior pros have got enough miles on the clock to be able to miss out on a summer tour. They're often very, very arduous anyway, and the Lions does have a fair bit of respite with the two squads that are made up and the way that they travel these days. I would have thought that the unions would be able to look at picking 36 players to comprise a Lions squad and still service the summer tours very, very well. As a Lions fan, if someone said to me, you can still go in 2022 and achieve all these objectives, but it might not be the 36 players that you originally thought were going to make up. It could be 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 of those made up with those nearly runs or or people that might have just been on the fringe. Would you still go and follow? My answer is unequivocally yes, of course. I wouldn't care if you guys on the screen were in the Lions, right? The purpose is to go and show your representation and to follow.
Saying there's a chance. He's saying there's a chance. I'm not sure. I'm very ready to go, man. It's all good.
Well, you'd have tickets then to the first and second test. You wouldn't be.
I'm water boy, mate. I'd be well happy.
Yeah, there's enough quality there, and the Springboks have been hindered. I don't need to tell you guys there's no game since the World Cup final, and you're going to need a hell of a lot of matches under your belt before those tests. So I still think it's a viable option in my opinion for the Lions to go in 2022 potentially with a slightly weakened squad. But that for me doesn't matter one iota. Pick the best of the rest, and we'll still have a great time.
I think the other thing you need to remember is that if they are doing this to appease money men and women potentially, or money people, then that's even sadder, and or just as sad, should I say? Because again, that's not for rugby reasons. That's for lining people's pockets. But there we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys.
I was going to say, there's one little bit of silver lining that, right, we understand it. The Wales are scheduled to come to South Africa on tour next year as part of the summer tour, playing 3 tests. You may have heard that as well. if that happens with 85% of our audience being Welsh, there also seems to be an army of people that are still thinking, well, we still want to go to South Africa. So we might not get, if Lions Tour doesn't happen as we see it, and it's in the UK and Wales do tour next year, I can give you my backing that we'll be doing everything we can to get the same number of people coming over to do the same program. So we'll see you either this summer or next summer, whatever happens.
Just a different sea of red, mate. Just a slightly different sea of red. Right, guys, the link for the petition is in the comments now. Joe has put it in there for us, so thank you very much for that. Mark, thanks so much for your time tonight. Thanks for clarifying and helping us on certain situations, and I suppose righting a few wrongs with how some people view the petition, which is a minority, but hey, look, they're all educated now, so they can move on, and we know it's all for the good of rugby. Tiaan, Rob, thank you from me and G for giving us your time tonight. Cracking rugby chat, as always. I love it, as they say. G-Man, thanks. First show. How do you feel?
It's been a good one. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been interesting. A lot of it was great hearing the story from Mark about the Lions, and again reiterating the importance of it. So let's fingers crossed we get things going. It's been good. It's been a good show. Thanks, guys.
Awesome stuff. And until next time, guys, we'll be back in 2 weeks, obviously, with another show. And thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.